Hello friends, I welcome you all at my YouTube channel Study of Political Science SPS online classes. So this is me Tilakraj Sharma, research scholar, Department of Political Science, University of Jammu. So before moving towards this lecture, I would like to give you a quick review of my previous lecture and request you to please go through that video once again so that your preparations may not be halted at any point of time. So best of luck for your examination, and I'll be starting with the second part of the evolution of Indian Constitution. So guys, we were talking about the evolution of Indian Constitution and the constitutional development in India during the British rule. So we have divided this British rule into two parts: the company rule, which lasted from 1773 to 1858, and the crown rule, which lasted from 1858 and 1947. So the history of constitutional development in India begins from the passing of the Regulating Act in 1773, then followed by Pitt's India Act, we have already discussed it, 1784, and the successive Charter Act that lasted from 1793 to 1853, form the part of the constitutional changes under the East India Company's rule. Now, what happened in 1857, we are all aware. A revolt against the autocratic and a very dramatic kind of a very जिसको हम कहेंगे बहुत बुरा oppressive rule of the this East India Company. Now the revolt of 1857 brought about important changes in the British administration in India. The rule of the East India Company now came to an end. The administration of India came under the direct control of the British control or crown. So these changes were announced in the Government of India Act 1858. The proclamation, what we call the administration of India, so what I said, came in direct control of the British Crown, and the changes were announced under the Government of India Act 1858. Now the rule came under direct control of the British Queen, the Queen Victoria, and the Queen Victoria assured the Indians a benevolent administration now. And thereafter, important development had taken place in constitutional history of India, which was actually the outcome of the Indian national movement. Now we need to understand the Government of India Act 1858, which is very important. Please note down these highlighted points. After the revolt of 1857, as I already said, the rule of East India Company was replaced by British Crown, and the British possession in India were controlled by them. All the powers of the British Crown were vested in the Secretary of State. So a new office of Secretary of State was created, and now this Secretary of State was being assisted by a Council of India consisting of 15 members. So please note down the top Secretary of State, then followed by 15 members who were supposed to assist the Secretary of State. And this Secretary of State was vested with complete position and power over the Indian administration, having Viceroy as his agent. So Secretary of State was sitting in England, and the 15 members of his councils, then they have their agent as the Viceroy of India. And this Viceroy of India is supposed to control the Indian administration and then revert back to this Secretary of State. So, through this act, the designation of Governor General was changed to Viceroy of India. So, initially, we have seen that the position of Viceroy was created. This Governor General of India was created from the position of the Governor General of Bengal. So now this again changed to the Viceroy of India. So first Viceroy was the Lord Canning. So this act also abolished the Board of Control and the Court of Directors. So please note down, we have already mentioned the Board of Control and Court of Directors under the Governor General. And when the position of Governor General was lapsed, so it also abolished the Board of Control and Court of Directors. Then Indian Council Act of 1861, when we are talking about the period immediately after 3 years, another act of Indian Council under the name of Indian Council Act came in. This act introduced a popular element of involving Indians for the very first time. Please note down this point. Very first time, few Indians were nominated to the Legislative Council and the Executive Council, but their position was non official. They were not the official members. Now, the Executive Council, which was already existing, was enlarged from 6 to 12 members. And these nominated members were nominated for a period of 2 years. So, you need to understand from 6 to 12 and the period of 2 years. And they were being, nominated by the Viceroy only. So, a statutory recognition was accorded to the portfolio system. So the portfolio system was also being there, but there now the recognition provided to them. Viceroy was empowered to issue an ordinance in case of an emergency. Now, if we are talking about the modern day system of governance under the Constitution of India, when the President of India is allowed to issue an emergency and declare the ordinances, but at that time, and this series of issuing of ordinance was in during the British rule, and only the Viceroy was allowed to issue ordinance and this emergency, but without the concurrence of the Legislative Council. The process of decentralization was initiated by restoring legislative powers. So, decentralization is what? Basically, that wasn't a kind of decentralization, that was even called the devolution of powers. But the provinces like Madras, like Bombay, they were not allowed to have legislative powers, but now their powers were restored. So they have again given the power of legislation in their respective areas. So Indian Council Act of 1892, this act introduced indirect elections. Please note down, not direct elections but indirect election, which was processed by nomination. So one has to nominate and then election may be conducted. But this conducting of election was indirect, not direct election. Again, the size of the Legislative Council was expanded. Then functions of the Legislative Councils were enlarged as they were given the power of discussing the budget and questioning the executive. Now please understand, first time you can question the budget and discuss it without making and basically you are supposed to be in the good in the eyes of the Britishers, but you can discuss the budget and question on that. So now, very important, the Indian Council Act of 1909, which is also called the Morley Minto reforms, because the Morley Minto were the two different person. One was the Governor General and other was the Viceroy. So this act increased, again, see, increasing of legislative council. That's from 1861 onward. So this act increased in the number of members of the legislative council. Now, earlier it was 16, but now allowed 60, and introduced direct election. Initially, before 1909, there was indirect election, but now direct elections for the legislative council. Now, very important, the name of the Central Legislative Council was changed to Imperial Legislative Council. The question may directly be asked. The majority of the official members in the council, which represented the entire states, were maintained to be the same in number, whereas there was a majority of non official members. Please note down the highlighted point there can be asked, who were not elected in the provincial or state councils. Bengal is the exception because they are allowed to being, a majority of the non-official members are official members. The act provided for the first time the appointment of Indian with the executive council of viceroy. Earlier there wasn't any Indian in the viceroy's executive council, and this person Satyendra Prasad Sinha was the first person to be being appointed for executive council. The act introduced, very important, this question may ask number of time, separate electorate to the Muslims, which is a system of communal representation for the Muslim community. Indian Councils Act came to an end with this act. Now this act ended the system of Indian Council Act. Another one is the Government of India Act 1919. The act is also named as Montagu-Chelmsford Reforms because Montagu was the Secretary of State in India and Chelmsford was the Viceroy of India at that particular time. Now, demarcation was drawn between central subject and provincial subject because the autonomy of the provincial legislatures were restored in the last act. So now the demarcation of subjects were defined. The concept of dual government or dual governance called diarchy was introduced in the provinces. So when diarchy was introduced in the provinces uh, and provincial government, where the executive councillors were in charge of the reserved subjects. Please note down, the subjects were defined, reserved subjects and transferred subjects, and the legislative was responsible for transferred subjects, whereas ministers were uh, responsible for the reserved subjects. Now, another big important initiative was taken. A bicameral legislature was introduced at the center through this act. Later, legislative council, what we call in modern day, that became Rajya Sabha, and legislative council became Lok Sabha. Then Public Service Commission was established. It wasn't Union Public Service Commission, but a Public Service Commission was established. There were 140 members in the Legislative Assembly, which became the Lok Sabha, and 60 members in the Legislative Council. It became mandatory to have at least 3 Indian members out of 6 in the Governor General's Executive Council. Now please note down, it became mandatory. Earlier it wasn't mandatory, but now from onward it is mandatory for a Governor General to have at least 3 Indian members. So the representation through various acts to the Indians were accorded. A direct election where the right to vote was extended by this act. Now the Government of India Act 1935. So this is very important act which was the result of the report of the Simon Commission. Then there was a round table conference and white paper. You are supposed to have you know, to know about what the Simon Commission was and what its report was. Then the round table conference, who attended this and who boycotted. Then white paper. If we talk about the Government of India Act, so this act was the lengthiest even document presented by the British government in India. Now this act established and asked for the establishment of All India Federation. Now this federation will be consisting of governors provinces, what we call the British India, and the princely states. Now, the present day system of division of powers in three lists was introduced under this system, under this act only. These three lists were called the federal list with 59 items, then provincial list with 54 items, and then what we call the concurrent list. And the concurrent list was having 36 items. Now, a very, you know, regulatory act was taken, and this was to abolish diarchy, which was introduced in the early act, diarchy at the provincial level, but now this diarchy was introduced at the central level. And when we are talking about the residuary powers, the Governor General was empowered with the residuary powers. Council of India was abolished. Now, under this act only, Burma was separated from India. Burma now, which is called Myanmar, it was separated from India. So, this act enlarged the bicameral legislature in 6 out of the 11 provinces, which are the provinces of one we call the Madras, Bombay, Assam, Bengal, Bihar, and the United Province. Again, the establishment of Federal Court and the RBI, Reserve Bank of India, was initiated under this act. Now, the Indian Independence Act of 1947. This is a very important act. Please note down, I'll be clarifying this also. So, with this act of Indian independence, the British rule came to an end. The act provided for the partition of India and Pakistan, of course, and all the laws which were enforced in British India would be applicable to both the dominions until amended by the respective legislatures. So, actually, this is very important to understand that when a country is separated from, or a division of a land into two countries, but there emerge a question of initial laws, then bilateral treaties, then question of currency and number of other things which are even the cases of loans and the debt the country is facing, that question arises. And but the international law provided for, the obedience to those treaties, those laws by both the dominions or those countries. Though even in case of the partition of India and Pakistan, all the laws which British government in India introduced, so they have also, asked the Pakistan to obey to those laws and those treaties. Each nation will be governed by the Government of India Act 1935. This is very important question. Please note down this. Maximum time in UPSC, in KS, or in any other examination of higher level, this question directly asks that after independence, the government, the governance of the country was ruled by or governed by under which act. So most of the people, wrote and tick the question like 90 Act of 1947, but it wasn't the Act of 1947, it is actually the Act of 1935. But to till which period? The period was until the constitution was framed by the respective constituent assemblies. The act declared India as an independent and sovereign nation. Obviously, it provided for the establishment of governments at both the center and state level. So, the Indian Independence Act actually asked for a federation, that a government, a dual government, be established, one at the central level and other at the states level. Then Constituent Assembly and the interim government was asked for dual role or dual function, one as the Constituent Assembly and other as the legislature. The Viceroy of India and the provincial governors were made as the constitutional heads. So we have seen till now that how the Constitution of India was framed, and how a constitutional development had taken place in India from 1773. So basically, when we are talking about the making of the Indian Constitution, so we may say that Indian Constitution is not the product of a single stroke, but it is the product of the consistent and the continuous concessions granted to the people of India from 1973 to 1947. And then a time came when a Constituent Assembly of Free India sat and framed the constitution after a lengthy and longer period of near about 2 years. So I hope you may have a better glimpse of how the Constitution of India came out and how the constitutional development had taken place on the Indian soil. If you like my lecture, kindly subscribe my channel, hit the bell icon for more videos. I would be appreciating, and thanks for your encouragement and the consistent feedback. If you have any query, any question, you can ask me on the comment box. Thank you so much.